Hello, 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 hello. Hi and welcome. Welcome to the channel. My name is Tanya or Titanium Built, and I have an eye on my hair on my lash. Welcome in, everybody. Hopefully, you guys are having a great day. We've got some new news in some of the cases. I'm going to update you in, um, and we've got some news on Caleb Harris's case. Some sad news. So everybody, just get settled in. If I'm shiny, it's because I just put on face stuff for my skincare. So my face is a little shiny tonight. Someone asked me that one time. They're like, "Why is your face so shiny?" And I was like, "I just did some skincare. I'm sorry, just trying to self-care myself." But if you're new to the channel, I'm Tanya, Titanium Built. You can call me either or. Welcome in, everybody. It's good to see you guys. It's good to see everybody. We're gonna talk a little Idaho, a little Caleb Harris, a little everything. I was over actually in another live when I was in Jacobs for Justice's live before my live. I was like, I'm gonna go over there and say hi, support the channel, say hey, and hi, hello, what's up? And went in and was listening to Sebastian stuff and was talking about that case. And then all of a sudden she got word that, Caleb Harris, the remains that were found were indeed Caleb. So we'll go over that too. I couldn't believe it. Hey, Mary Beth, you made 60 the Happy National Hot Dog Day. She made 60 hot dogs for the people in my complex. That's so sweet of you, Mary Beth. Man, I'm telling you, the world needs more people like you. Really, they really do. I tell her that all the time. Hey, Cheryl, you too. Cheryl, you weren't in a chat the other night where you giving anybody shit. I don't know who it was, but it's somebody by the name of Cheryl. And I was listening in onto another live and they were reviewing it. And they're like, whoever this commenter is, their name's Cheryl. Cheryl's giving it to her. And it was so funny because I just kept saying Cheryl, Cheryl. And I was just like, give me a last name. Give me a last name. Because I was going to laugh if it was you. I was going to start laughing. Hey, Catherine, welcome in, Frenchie. We did. I heard about Caleb. I don't know if they did. But all over Jays for Justice. Yeah, that's where I was. Yep, I was over there, and I'm going to pull up the article. I found an article. I'm just going to pull up the Facebook post. She couldn't find the Facebook post for some reason. She said she might be blocked from the channel, or I don't know. Probably Tony Mathis. Hey, Ladybug. Hey, Jan. I love that flower, by the way. Is that sunflower? That's a really pretty flower. Really pretty. Hey, Tony. Welcome in, everybody. It's good to see you guys. Man, 60 hot dogs. That's a lot of hot dogs. Everybody got full though, right? Everybody had a good time. Hot dog. Oh, I bet you people are still having a good time. That's so nice of you. That's so nice. If you think about that, like for the summer, if you think your kids are home, right? And it's an extra expense you have, to feed them at home. And you just literally fed all those kids and everything, just gave them parents a break. Think of it like that. You gave them a big break, Hey, Janet, I can't pronounce the first part of that. Never well. Okay, I'm going towards the bottom. I'm getting there. I'm sorry, guys. Ashleigh, how are you doing? Hey, Bayou, babe. How are you doing tonight? Okay, I think I'm at the bottom. Lenora. I always feel like I forget Lenora. Do I? I hope I don't, because sometimes I feel like I forget you. Like, I'll always be scrolling. And I think it's because sometimes Ladybug and Lenora are like in the same, like by each other. And I always think you guys are the same. See, I didn't even see DM. There she is. I've seen another Cheryl, but it's not our Cheryl. Okay. DM, whoever that Cheryl was, I think it was Queen Bee. I can't remember for sure. I was at the pool, I think. I was listening to it yesterday and they were just going, Cheryl, Cheryl. I was like, please tell me that's our Cheryl. But I know Cheryl says she only watches this channel. So I was just laughing though. I was like, if this is, it sounded like, something that you would do. Like you were giving them crap. Painter weave with oh, broke down. Okay, I'll get it there. I'll get there. But thank you for joining us. Oh, your hair color is so pretty. So pretty. And hey, Karen, welcome in. Welcome in, Karen. Okay, so we got some news tonight. I had a completely different live schedule. So if I'm a little all over the place, it's because we got news in and we're going to go into that. So Caleb Harris, the gentleman that we've been following here. I saw this picture and I about lost it. I about lost it. I already lost it whenever I was in Jay's. We started following Caleb's story like 2 days after he went missing. He was reported missing from his roommates reported him missing and his parents. And his dad still was going down once a week to meet with investigators to just look over the case, see if they found anything new. He would go out there and search for him, things of that nature. They had big searches out there. Well, June 26th, I think it was June, like the end of June, we found out that there were human remains found across the street from where Caleb lived. And I'm going to go through all of this tomorrow, map it out for you guys, because I know this case pretty well. But he took a Snapchat at his apartment complex, inside the complex with his dog, to send it to his sister. He walks out, goes to this bridge that's foggy, that to the right. So he goes to the right, he takes a Snapchat, sends it to a friend in San Francisco. Inside joke, I guess. I don't know what, I want to know the joke. I want to know what the actual text said. And then he would have had to walk back. So let's say he's walking back home. Who in their right mind would walk through a cornfield with those corn stalks barefoot? Barefoot. Not a day in my life. I've lived in the country my whole life. And I would never. And I don't see him doing that. We saw him on video at 1 something in the morning. It wasn't, I can't remember the exact time. It was, I think, 12 or 1. But he was fine. He was like not, falling over drunk. He wasn't intoxicated. He wasn't rugged. None of those things. I'm wondering if somebody hit him when he was walking home. Because that's not like a main road, but it seems like a pretty busy road. And I'm just wondering, if somebody hit him. I don't know why he would walk either. I don't know why he would walk to the bridge. Maybe he saw the bridge in the distance and he thought, oh, that'd be a really cool Snapchat. I'm gonna send it to my friend. It's weird. But we're going to do a live about it tomorrow because I want to know all the details about this. And I'm going to give you guys what his parents said. His parents, good golly, I don't even know. I think that these people are seriously, everybody could take a little, piece of advice from them. I don't know. Their faith is so strong, and to have that is probably a unbelievable feeling, like to be able to have your faith and hold on to that. And, so, well, we don't really know, DM. That was just like on a Reddit post, like that somebody put that. So we don't really know what he was doing. And I'm wondering because they only said the 2 Snapchats, like, is anything else? Was there any other texts or any other messages? Maybe they'll come out and say now because they found him. Now, how did he get down there in the manhole? They're not that big. They're not huge. They're big enough to fit a man, but you got to be going down like straight up and down. You can't be like walking and stumble and fall into one. Like, I don't see that happening. So it's very weird. But they say, we all have heavy hearts this evening as we learned of the positive identification of our sweet Caleb. We will grieve our son, but we are at peace knowing he is with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Only our hope is in Jesus. If you don't know our Savior, please talk to me. I love talking about Jesus. Thank you for your prayers and support during this tragic time. And to me, I mean, hold on to your faith, Hold on to your faith, because that's a blessing to have. You know what I mean? That's kind of like when you're in a way, I don't know why this is not really the same, but it's kind of the same. When you're in a car accident, you don't remember anything. It's a blessing in a way, like me. Like, I don't remember my accident. Blessing. There's little blessings everywhere. Just gotta, look for them. Now I don't know how they didn't find him before, because they searched that area. Maybe that manhole cover. If it was on, then how do you get in there? I mean, I have so many questions. I have a question. I have a lot of questions about this case. But yeah, isn't it kind of like it's a blessing in a way that you don't remember? It's like a trauma. Some of their trauma, like, just your brain helps you deal. And I hope that they always continue to have their faith. And I know that they're going to they will send Caleb out with the best funeral in the world. I can see it now. I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. So our prayers for their family. I mean, really, this is tragic. I was on the fence. I didn't know. I wasn't sure if it was going to be him or not, but hmm, it's just sad. It is. It's real sad. Well, we're going to do something that's not so sad. It's actually like what is the world's going on? What's that show? Something about the Carmen San Diego. I feel like that's what the show we're on. Can't think of the first part of it. Yes, exactly, Ladybug. Prayers and peace. Very sad. Yeah, it's sad. I guess you would have that. At least you know where he is. I mean, I don't know if that would even help. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that would even do a damn thing. But not knowing, I feel like would be like really, really torturous, especially for his mama. Um, and his sister. No one really talks about his sister a lot, but they were really close. And if you guys didn't catch the Jennifer Coffindoffer interview, we played it on here, but go watch it on her channel here. It was a wonderful interview. Where in the world is Carmen San Diego? That's what it is, Jan. I don't know why I get that for. Man, Lordy mercy. Okay. We're gonna talk about Caleb tomorrow. We're gonna talk about Kohberger tonight. He's on our list. I saw that. Well, I heard that Harvey Levin, the guy that does TMZ, I heard that he went on Banfield, but I didn't listen to it. I was like, I don't even. What's he got to say? You know what I mean? Now we're bringing in TMZ into the mix. So, did you guys get to watch this? Because it's pretty good. I mean, it makes me go back to like the early 2000s whenever I used to watch like TMZ back when like I used to watch cable TV like at my parents' house when like TRL was on and stuff. I feel like it was that long ago. But we'll play through it. We'll listen to it. He says that he thinks that this is kind of weird that Bryan Kohberger would all of a sudden, go to this length, unaliving 4 people in his first like real crime. Ashleigh Banfield says, "Hey, spree killers do it all the time." That's what I was thinking. Mass murders do it all the time, and that's exactly what this is. Usually, they go from 0 to 100. So we'll listen through this. Thank you guys for being here. I do appreciate it. He wasn't impressed yet. I was like, oh, here we got him giving his opinion. Just I want to give my opinion. Ashleigh, put me on the show. Look, I'm wearing white. Look, oh look, my neck is falling off. Hold on, don't put me on the show yet. Oh, don't put me on the show yet, Ashleigh. I thought that wasn't snapped or clasped whenever I did that. But I was like, maybe it's holding on for dear life, and it'll be all right. We're good now. He missed it. I'm wondering the same thing because he was in a sewage. We saw where he was. Like we saw like video of TikTok, the people that found him. Like I just don't understand how he got in there. He would literally have to like pencil stick like in there. I don't know. These cases get weirder and weirder. Hey Garrett, it's good to see ya. Hey Midwest. BK's guilty. Yeah. Yeah, he's guilty. Even Harvey Levin was like, well, they do have the DNA on the knife sheath. And I believe full-heartedly, I do. I believe that he was going to go up to that 3rd floor, maybe try to retrieve that knife sheath when he encountered Dylan, and then he pieced out. Like, I don't think he was going that way to go out the exit. I could be totally wrong. But you just unalive 4 people. You're walking back with your weapon in your hand. And where are you going to put it? Back in the sheath, right? Well, where's the sheath? Sorry, I got like a hair on my eyelash. Where's the sheath? You would go back and go probably upstairs and go find it. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking then he saw Dylan, and when she shut her door, he turned around and walked out. And I think he walked out the front door. Don't come for me for that. I'm a front door person. I think that he came in the front door. Now I could be wrong on that too, but I'm sticking to my convictions. Oh, let me turn her up. Hold on.
That I have had in a long time about what happened at 1122 King Road in Idaho a year and a half ago was with Harvey Levin of TMZ fame. Harvey's a lawyer, and he has a long, long history of covering crime and justice. So imagine my surprise when he raised doubts about whether Bryan Kohberger could have pulled off that quadruple murder all by himself. He is not entirely convinced that a guy with no history of violent crime went floor to floor in a big house and killed 4 young people with only one knife. And Harvey says a jury might have a problem with that too.
Well, look, I mean, there is a lot of evidence here that links Bryan Kohberger to this crime. That said, I just do find it weird. And this is not to say that he did or didn't do it. But Ashleigh, somebody who has never committed a murder or, as far as we know, even a violent crime, going to a house that has 3 levels, 6 people inside and a dog, where he would go up to the 3rd floor, kill 2 people, go down to the 2nd floor, kill 2 more, knowing that there are other people in the house. And the only thing he's armed with is a knife. Doing that with 6 people, never.
I do kind of agree with that. I don't know. I'm going to agree with Harvey on that one. I mean, that is bold. That is bold. Like, I don't know. I've heard that before, but when he said it, it just hit me different. Like, I don't know. You must be pretty skilled, right? Like, with that weapon, or you must feel really confident in what you're doing. I don't know. I think he went in to maybe just try to kill one and it went south.
Ever having committed a crime before,
crazy.
knowing that one of the people in the house is a guy who's much more athletic, bigger than him, who could have heard a scream when he killed the first 2 people, and he could have overpowered him. It's a little weird, don't you think?
Well, I was going to say you missed your calling as a defense attorney, but you didn't, because TMZ is really, really popular and successful. So you're doing just fine. But I will say this. I have a theory, Harvey Levin, and that is this. If he's guilty, and I have to preface, if he's guilty of this crime, he showed up thinking there'd be 5 girls. And he didn't expect a boy to be sleeping over, a very big boy, Ethan Chapin. And maybe, just maybe, that stunned him. He was overwhelmed and the battle became pitched. And that was enough for him to say, after the 3rd victim, and then suddenly a very large 4th victim, that he needed to get out of there. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I hear you. But I do think that he knew that Ethan was around that house a lot, because he had stalked the house. If you believe the prosecutors, that they have numerous, they have evidence that he had gone there numerous times and just watched the house. So it sounds like
He
knew
did.
the lay of the land.
He did. He was in something for school, baby girl. I think that's what you're thinking of, maybe. Like, he was in what I'm gathering from it. It's like a vocational kind of program. You know, like you can take your last 2 years and go into do like vocational like courses to where you'll earn a certificate, and you can use that towards, you know, getting a job once you're out of high school. I think it was one of those like programs, like ROTC. Is that what it's called around here? ROTC, something like that. But I think that he was in there, but then he got kicked out of that because he was allegedly, he was messing with the girls or something. And so they booted him. And then that's when he went to HVAC. That's when he went over to the HVAC with the boys. ROTC, yeah. ROTC. I don't know why I know that, but I do. I think I had a friend in ROTC. I think she got paid like money to wear her like uniform. Like she did more like military stuff, but she get paid to wear her military uniform to school. I'm like, pay me all day. I hate having to figure out something to wear for school, you know, but I couldn't do the military. I just USA, but ain't got it in me. Could you see me in the military?
And inside,
I'd be trying to make
he
peace
knew
with
who was
everybody through
there.
talking.
And Ethan's girlfriend was there, which is why he was there. And he slept over. So I don't know that he'd be oblivious to Ethan being there. But, you know, again, even if Ethan wasn't there, when he does this to the first person, you would assume there would be screams and that other people would wake up and see him. And unless he planned on taking everybody out of the house, somebody's going to ID this guy and it's game over. So look, again, I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm just saying the circumstances are boldly weird here, that he would
boldly
think
weird.
get away with
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you. I have always thought this, like, if he's guilty, how is it that a PhD student in criminology could think that you could pull it off? But for the fact it's a party house, and maybe that was the equation. Any of the screaming is going to be written off as partying. And as it turns out, from some of the early affidavits, Dylan Mortensen said that she heard Kaylee, it sounded like she was playing with her dog. Likely she was being murdered. And then she heard Xana whimpering and someone saying, it's okay, I'm here to help. And that Dylan didn't think anything of it because it's a party house and it's so noisy.
Well, okay, but it was also 4:30 in the morning when this happened. And usually that's not when the party is at high pitch. And secondly, I think he knew they were sleeping. I don't think he would have gone in the house if he thought everybody was awake roaming around. So I think he went in knowing it was quiet. And I'm not so much talking about the neighbors as I'm talking about people in the house, unless he felt he could take out 6 people, that there was a huge risk that the first person would scream loud enough that everybody else would wake up. They would ID him, even if they didn't overpower him, and they would know exactly who it is. They'd give the description to the police and be arrested in 12 hours. So, I just don't buy the party house theory, even though it was a party house.
The DoorDash part.
I don't
DoorDash
think that
part
either.
is so perplexing because that DoorDash was on the back door or the front door, I'm not even sure which, at 4 o'clock in the morning. And the perp, be it Kohberger or someone else, depending, was within minutes of that. It's astounding they didn't cross paths or at least see each other. Or maybe that was the opportunity, again, if he's guilty, that Kohberger saw as a chance to be in the house where nobody would suspect an odd guy walking through the house because
I think the DoorDash people, I think the cops got to them quick and told them to shut it. Like you can't talk. I don't know, because we haven't heard zip, zilch, nada about the DoorDash. Like, we think it came from a Jack in the Box because of a bag that was inside of the house that we got a picture from the outside looking in. You know what I mean? Do you know how that makes sense? It doesn't make much sense, right? And then there's a cup beside it that clearly looks like it has like Starbucks coffee in it from last year. Doesn't look like it came with the order, unless it's a milkshake and it came from last year. I don't know. It looks weird to me. So I think that maybe the DoorDash person maybe saw the person in the area. Maybe they saw a car that wasn't Bryan Kohberger's. Maybe they saw a Pontiac. I don't know. Pontiac don't even make cars anymore, Tanya. What am I talking about? Do they even make cars? Pontiac. Maybe it was a Honda Accord. They make those. Okay. Maybe that's what he saw or she saw. It's very crazy. Oh no, I'm so sorry, true crime and other stuff. 30 years. Oh damn, I'm so sorry. That's sad. That's so sad. You lost your best friend. 30 years. You make me want to call my best friend. Pontiac went out of business. I'm so old. I swear. I'm a 38-year-old. Like, I'm trapped in a 38-year-old's body, but I swear I'm like 180. Like, Pontiac. I say the most random things, and then I have to think about it. Oh man, I'm gonna go from laughing to crying tonight, I feel like. Yeah, they did Google and they said that the DoorDash could be from the Jack in the Box. I'm just saying in general, you know what I mean? Like, we're basing our evidence off of off of that. It's just kind of crazy.
DoorDash was there.
That's true too.
And I do think they may have passed
and
each
look,
other.
And I understand that. And I don't want to just focus on this, Ashleigh, because there's a lot of evidence here. I mean, the DNA on the knife sheath, just the fact that he had said that he was hanging around that area because he liked looking at stars, even though it was cloudy, and he put himself right by the scene of the crime. In addition to, taking his cell phone with him, turning it on and off, as opposed to leaving it at home when it's on. I mean, that's kind of a basic thing, especially if you're studying criminal justice. So, he screwed up a lot if he did it, but there's a lot of evidence that he did.
I mean, those are two massive rookie moves, right? Taking your cell phone with you and thinking you're smart enough that turning it off once you're driving. Yeah. And then number two, leaving the knife sheath behind. Because as we have come to understand, the murders on the 3rd floor happened first, and the knife sheath was up there. So he would have been leaving the house without the knife sheath, and he left again, if he's guilty, the first murders, he left the sheath behind. So real rookie move. And let's talk a little more about that theory of yours about going 0 to 60 in your first murder, that it's very, very unlikely. In your special, in Strange and Suspicious, you do have some experts who actually say, maybe it's not that weird. Maybe somebody can go from 0 to 60 because spree killers do it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. And by the way, it's not a special. This is actually a series that's on the Fox stations around the country in the big markets.
Harvey, you're lying. It's not at Fox and all the big networks, because I looked under Fox Nation, the app that I still pay for. I don't know why I pay for that. Nancy Grace has not been on that app in a year, but I would still be paying for it. And I couldn't find it. So Harvey, you better tell me where this little program's at so I can find it.
It's Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
We'll
have to find
we
it.
had people, we have like LAPD, retired cop, private investigators, and others who said what you said, which is it is not necessarily unusual where people can create fantasies and then act out on the fantasy. That's true. Where I come from is this. My dad owned a liquor store, and I worked in the store when I was a kid. And I remember we used to have a lot of people coming in stealing things, stealing Playboy, stealing candy. And I remember talking to my dad about it.
I'm sorry. Can you imagine being the guy stealing the $5.99 Playboy from the liquor store? Like, buy the bottle of Jack, but I'm taking the Playboy for free.
And we would talk about the fact that people who come in and they steal Playboys and steal candy
We
and
love
whatnot,
true crime.
that they keep graduating upward. And eventually some of them end up robbing banks. This would be like somebody robbing a bank in their first outing and skipping my dad's liquor store. And for some reason, the liquor store metaphor always has stuck with me. And it's odd to me that somebody would commit a crime of this magnitude with this many people, thinking that they could do it with just a knife in the middle of the night with a three-level
I have the sweater
house.
shirt he has on.
That's pretty damn bold. Even if you have fantasies, I'm not sure if somebody is smart, and he is smart, would say, I'm going to act on this fantasy because I think I can pull it off. It feels improbable.
Yeah, I mean, it is Capote level violence. And I always like to say there are a lot of smart criminals out there, and they always think they're smarter than all of the crime solvers. And typically they're not. One last quick question for you, Harvey Levin, because you know how much I adore you and I also admire you. You've got such a great body of work, as well as your background in law. What's your over-under on this? What do you think is actually going to happen? I know the theories we've espoused here, but what do you really think is going to happen in Idaho?
Well, I mean, look, there is a lot of evidence linking this guy to the crime. So I haven't heard all of it, but when you look at the knife sheath, when you look at the DNA, when you look at the cell phone, when you look at him even acknowledging that he was around there, where you've got him essentially stalking that place, there is a lot of evidence here that could definitely convince a jury to convict this guy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm going to do you a big solid here. It is called Strange and Suspicious. It's airing now, weekdays on Fox. And this particular episode is the one on Bryan Kohberger. You had me at hello, but you always do. I'm going to call you back and we'll talk about Kohberger as it gets underway. Thanks, Harvey.
I love talking to you, Ashleigh.
I don't know if you guys could peep. I don't know if you guys can see it now because it's covered, but did you guys see the clock in the background? It was... Man, he's getting every penny of your time. He really is. It was like the hours, minutes, and seconds. Kind of like when you're in the courthouse. I hate those clocks. I hate them. You sit there and stare at the seconds going, and you're like, oh, okay, there's another minute. There's another minute. You know, just it's kind of crazy. But yeah, you can see it. Oh, you move your big head.
It's Party House, and maybe that
there it
was
is.
the.
This girl keeps walking in the background too. She must be like getting in her steps in. She's like, I gotta wait until 4 o'clock to leave. Gotta be here till 4 o'clock. Just kind of funny. Brought nosy much Banfield there, right? Thank you, Mary Beth, for gifting after membership. Frenchie got it. Look at that. Make sure you tell her thanks. Thank you for the support. I appreciate that so much. Hey, Stephanie. Estates. What? Estate sale? Anyone want a wife? I do. 30-day refunds. Okay. I'll take her. I want to go to an estate sale. That sounds like fun. I've never been to one. That sounds like fun. Okay, Vincent would probably not be cool with, he probably wouldn't be down with that though. Could I get him to go? I probably could. I could get him to go. He'd go. He would go anywhere. He'd go anywhere. And what was her name? I missed True Crime Other Stuff. I wanted to see what her name was. Let me go up. Oh, was it? I'm sorry. I said her. William. Oh. It's always, I feel like it's harder when you lose a guy friend too. My best girlfriend, she seems healthy as a horse, and she better be. She's clean eating right now. I love the scene. You know, like you start to see each other through like socials and stuff like that. I haven't talked to her in a while. I need to call her. You are like the second thing today to remind me to call her, so I'm gonna call her. So I wanted to watch or listen with you guys. The Idaho massacre came out with it. They came out with another episode. They've come out with a lot of episodes. Let me go back and actually tell you. So we started this, let's see. We started with the first season. And that was, I'm trying to see the date. They're all like ass backwards. Okay, so August the 9th of 2023. So almost a year ago. And we still are, they just put out second season. So we went through the first, which was The Nightmare in Moscow. I have that on recorded if you don't want to like listen to the whole live. The second one is Murder House. I have that one, I believe, on pre-recorded. And then the other two I have to still do, and I'll do those over this week. I'll get them done tomorrow or the next day, and I'll have those out. That way you have all of them pre-recorded if you don't want to watch the whole live. But tonight we're going to go over the one that just came out, and it is pings and DNA admissibility. And let me throw up a better picture of so you guys can see. Oh, before I forget, this is not related to this case, but it's related to the channel and our channel. I tried to FOIA Madalena Kojikari's mom's, Diana, her records from jail. I wanted phone calls. I wanted letters. I wanted it all. And I wrote him a letter and I told him exactly what I wanted, what dates, what case number, all the good stuff. I mean, I was made sure that FOIA was going through. Had my card ready to pay. And she wrote me back and she said, sorry, we're not releasing any of those documents right now. It's still an open investigation. So I kind of want to write back and be like, it's not, because she's over Moldova. This is an active investigation. I don't know. It's crazy. But look at ALR coming in with a 13-month. That's crazy, ALR. A year's a long time. 13 months. That's crazy. We're going to make more. We're going to make new emojis. I think we're going to flip the arm like you guys said. I have it wrote down. List to do. Oh my gosh, I'm the worst. Okay. So I'm going to throw up some pictures for you guys. That way it's like, a little bit easier to watch on your eyes. If you want to watch something. Oh, and I was going to show you this. I think it was, it's not this picture, but I think one of these is when he was in high school, when he was going to be in that program. I thought I had one of him in the actual program. I'll look for that one. But we'll play this one here while I'm doing that. And I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to fast forward through the commercials if there's any. I should have did that before the live. Sorry about that. I was listening and then I didn't even do it.
As part of summer,
What makes for a great
Up the heat this summer.
It's a bad idea to
that his DNA.
Made with a premium hot Met sausage from Queen City Sausage. But don't wait. Hot Met conies are only at participating Skyline restaurants for a limited time. Come get yours today.
How the hell did his DNA end up on that sheath at that murder scene if it wasn't his sheath?
All we hear about are the pings. Bryan Kohberger, the alleged, was pinging everywhere.
It's a bad idea to have your cell phone with you when you commit a crime.
This isn't a whodunit. And I don't have to prove to you why he done it.
This is The Idaho Massacre, a production of KT Studios and iHeartRadio. Season 2, Episode 6, Pings and DNA Admissibility. I'm Courtney Armstrong, a producer at KT Studios with Stephanie Leidecker and Gabe Castillo. At the center of the prosecution's case against accused murderer Bryan Kohberger are records tied to his cell phone and DNA that allegedly places him at the scene of the crime. The defense has called foul on both areas of evidence.
Investigators now say they harvested DNA from an empty leather knife sheath. Police say that DNA matched DNA from Kohberger's father, which they collected from trash outside the family's Pennsylvania home.
Does the government now have genealogy info that previously was controlled by individuals and private organizations? And how accurate is this database?
The genealogy sites that allows police to search public records of people who have opted in, saying, hey, if there's a murderer or a rapist in my family, I don't mind if you use my DNA to try to find them.
Here's Stephanie.
We have to remember, DNA is a big ticket item for the prosecution. And just as a quick refresh, we know that, quote, a hit of Bryan Kohberger's DNA was found on a knife sheath left behind at the crime scene. And we also know that investigators connected that through familial DNA. Bryan Kohberger's parents' house was under surveillance in the days leading up to his arrest. His dad, we have to assume, tosses his trash in the garbage cans outside their home, and then investigators retrieve it. And from that trash, they're able to identify dad's DNA and put that into a database. And boom, there's a familial match. Now, look, this has been highly debated, as some say that the search and seizure of Kohberger's family trash is questionable.
In the course of researching this season, the team at KT Studios came across an article called How DNA and Cell Phone Evidence in Idaho Murders Complied with the Fourth Amendment. To get clarity on this pivotal information, I reached out to the article's author, Cully Stimson, who has singular expertise in both areas.
Let's see what she has to say.
Hi, Courtney. It's Cully Stimson from the Heritage Foundation.
Cully, how are you?
I'm great.
Excellent. Your article it seemed just so on point with so many pertinent matters. I guess just to start, would you just let listeners know your name and your background?
Sure. My name is Cully Stimson. I'm a senior legal fellow and manager of the National Security Law Program at the Heritage Foundation. Prior to that, I served in the Navy JAG Corps, which is the lawyer corps of the Navy, and served as a prosecutor and defense lawyer. When I was a prosecutor in the Navy, I tried a bunch of violent crimes, including a case that involved DNA. It was one of the few cases that the Navy had used DNA in early on. This is the 92, 3, 4, 5 period of time. And I worked as a homicide prosecutor in Maryland. And I tried the first PCR case.
What's PCR?
So it's a type of testing of genetic material. So when you used to have blood testing, you're either A, B, or O, and those are broad categories of blood type. Then when we started using genetics, you had to have a large amount of genetic material, stuff left at a crime scene. But because the law is always behind technology, lags way behind it, the genetic labs were now using the next level, the next more sophisticated level, which required much less material, called PCR, polychromase reaction. By the way, when I was a Maryland homicide prosecutor, I was the head of attorney training in the office, which included training on how to use DNA in cases. And when I was an instructor at the Naval Justice School for 5 years, I taught the whole JAG Corps how to use forensic DNA. And of course, now we're so confident that we have 23andMe, or did, Ancestry.com and all the rest of it. And so tens of millions of people rely on that genetic material to find close and distant relatives all around the world.
You've been with DNA since the very, very beginning.
Well, I'm actually made of DNA like you. So, I think from the very beginning, But I've had the opportunity to work with it. And as a defense attorney, I fought against it, like any good defense attorney, and tried to poke holes, not in the scientific reliability, because I think that's a losing battle, but in whether it was collected correctly, whether testing procedures were done correctly, whether there is an adulterated sample. That's really where the game is as a defense counsel.
I asked Colley how he thinks DNA and its collection will play out in this case during trial, as well as his general thoughts on the accused.
I mean, it's interesting. Look what he's studying. He's getting his PhD in criminal justice. I don't know what he's read, and I don't know what his course requirements are. If I was the prosecutor, I'd be pulling every book he ever had to read and every syllabus to find out and look for things.
I didn't even think about that. I do. I went to school for criminal justice. I got my bachelor's. So what are we talking about here? What we need? My old school records. Oh gosh, do we need to go down memory lane?
Things about alibi and forensic evidence. And I would want.
They sent me a whole DNA kit. Okay, me and my dad had so much fun with this thing, y'all. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. It came in the mail, and it was like this, just like you see on like the TV shows, like CSI. And it opened up like a, it was like metal, and it opened up, had all these compartments in there. It had like the little black, finger dust powder, little brushes, things like that nature, evidence bags, tape, just things that you would need, tweezers, things like that. And it came in this kit. Me and my dad was like playing with it. We were like, I was like, I don't know if we're supposed to be doing this. This might be for a project, but let's have fun. We were like fingerprinting the doorknobs. We had a lot of fun. But that's what, they give you a lot. They teach you a lot. It's criminal justice.
Want to get into the guy's head by seeing what he has studied and what he's writing. But I don't think that, for example, the questions about the way the evidence was collected at his parents' house back in Pennsylvania is an issue at all. Once you discard something, it's not yours anymore. You've abandoned it. And as a Fourth Amendment principle, you've abandoned any Fourth Amendment standing to complain that, somebody picked up my cigarette butt that I tossed on the ground. Somebody rifled through the trash out in front of my house. Well, you gave it up. So you don't have a right to complain. And it's his parents' house. So he doesn't even live there anymore. He's an emancipated man. So he doesn't have standing to complain about his parents throwing stuff away in their house. So he has a double negative there.
Ooh, I like that.
He had no standing if he threw it away himself. And he certainly doesn't have any standing if his parents threw it away.
Can I have you slow that down for 1 second? So what prompted you to write this article, about how the evidence complies with the Fourth Amendment, and what is the Fourth Amendment?
The Fourth Amendment is part of the original Bill of Rights, which were passed, a few years after the Constitution was signed and ratified by the states. And it essentially, insofar as this is related, says that the government may not engage in unreasonable searches and seizures of your persons, places, or things or papers. All right. And so for the government to get into your stuff, to see your stuff, typically they, at the very least, have to have probable cause to believe that you are the person who committed a crime, and that if they look into your stuff by getting a warrant that's very specific as to location and what they're looking for, signed by a judge, a neutral detached magistrate, the government can then look into into your house, look in the drawer, look in the closet for the knife, the gun, the rope, whatever you used for a crime. I was very interested.
Can you imagine that operation? You got like SWAT team. I don't know why, but I can just picture these burly men, like SWAT team guys, and they're just like looking at the trash and watching Kohberger. Like just eyeballing him, you know what I mean? Snipers and everything, like just looking at him, taking the trash out, taking it over. Oh, we don't need to bring it to our trash can. We'll just take it down here over to the neighbors. Not putting my trash in there. I've never known a kid that could clean up so well after himself that he would take his own trash and not even put it in your own trash can. He's going to take it home with him. He's that clean. He ain't even going to put the trash in your house.
In the development of Fourth Amendment law through the Supreme Court, because there was a case that the court had recently come down with called Carpenter against the United States, in a throwaway line that Justice Gorsuch said, where he, I think, made a mistake, suggesting that people would have a Fourth Amendment right to genetic material that is on third-party genetics hosting sites. If I spit into a vial and give it to Ancestry.com, and I have a contract with them to do so. I pay them a fee. They send me and only me my results back. If I then want to keep it private, that's it. No one gets to see what the results are. But if I want to take the extraordinary step of then providing that material, those test results, to a third-party genetics website, it's like putting it in the trash can. It's like hanging it outside my front porch for everyone to see, because you sign a contract that says this is out there for the world to see, because I want the world to see who I'm related to so they can see that they're related to me. And so when this case came along, I was reading the articles about it, and I thought, they're clearly clueless about this, because they were suggesting, oh, it's a violation of his Fourth Amendment right because they went through the trash. Oh, it's a violation of this. So I was like, whoa, slow down, everybody. And the Kohberger case is poking along now, and it's getting closer to trial time, and more people are sort of interested in the mechanics of the trial. But I suspect the closer we get to trial, people will be more interested in the DNA and the difference between the SNP DNA genetics testing piece, which they did for the trash, and then the regular forensic testing for admissibility into court. And so, the closer we get to trial and the more that gets litigated, I'm sure people will want to know in English what all that means.
Yeah. And is there a way to break those things down?
There's two types of forensic tests. What forensic means is used for criminal court. So just sort of file that away. Anytime you hear forensic and then a word after it, it means for criminal trial. So forensic DNA profiles, typically you find genetic material at a crime scene. You don't know who did it. You post it into the FBI's DNA database looking for a hit. And in the best case scenario, somebody's already provided their DNA because they're law enforcement or military or they're prior criminal and they've taken their DNA. You get a hit, and then you test, the chances of it being somebody else's DNA, and then you come up with a result. Here, when they found the sheath that held the knife that the subject used to slay the poor college kids, they tested the sheath and they found genetic material. That probably means epithelial cells that are found, believe it or not, in the sweat that comes off your fingertip. Okay. So everything you're touching, you're leaving a little part of your DNA on it. I mean, you can't even see it. Right. So whoever the dude or dudette is that killed these people left a sheath there. They test the sheath, and they were smart, because instead of just using one test and hoping that they'd get a random hit through the FBI DNA database called CODIS, CODIS, they also had a brain, because CODIS only tests, and I don't want to use scientific jargon, but let's just say 5 or 6 or 7, just a handful of what are called genetic markers. So you've seen the corkscrew DNA nucleotide, the thing that looks like a winding staircase.
Back in 7th grade.
Right. And so imagine that as that corkscrew is going down.
She's like, dude, I'm not that new.
And down and down, there's stairs. It tests 6 or 7 or 8 stairs at different points in the DNA corkscrew. SNPs is different. SNPs it's an acronym. It stands for single nucleotide polymorphism. And so imagine what they're doing there is they're looking at 30 or 40 or 50 of those stairs. And that's just to see what variations there are in sequences on somebody else's double helix, to see if there's a relationship between the person who left the DNA and somebody else. It's not used forensically in court. It's just, think of it as the Ancestry.com part of genetic testing. And so they tested, in my opinion, it hasn't been made public yet, they clearly tested the standard forensic testing, the standard DNA testing, probably PCR. And then they did SNP testing, most likely, because when they connected the dots between his cell phone and his parents' location, and he was registered at his parents' house, et cetera, and they went to the trash and got the parents' trash and tested some of the trash. Kohberger had been visiting his mommy and daddy, and sure enough, on the trash, they find, through SNP technology, a person who was 99.9999%, think of it as chance of being his dad. So in other words, it's his dad. It's the dad of the person who left the genetic material on the sheath. So if you remember I Love Lucy, when Ricky Ricardo said, Lucy, you got some splaining to do, Kohberger doesn't have to do any splaining because he's the defendant. He has a right to remain silent. But it looks really bad for him, because how the hell did his DNA end up on that sheath in that bedroom at that murder scene if it wasn't his sheath? And if it was his sheath, why was it there? And he doesn't have to say anything. He can stand on his right to remain silent, and that remains his right throughout the trial.
Just going back to what you said, how you did training in the prosecutor's office and then also in JAG, was a lot of acceptance of DNA as something reliable? Was it just teaching the presentation and helping people understand it on a really basic level so it didn't seem like magic and so people could understand?
Well, it's a complicated question with a somewhat easy answer. You don't have to become a genetics expert as a prosecutor or defense counsel or judge to use DNA as a forensic matter in a criminal trial. But what you have to do to be good at either using it for or against your case is to understand collection protocols, testing procedures and protocols, areas where samples can get mixed up with other samples. And so just like with any other forensic techniques that are used, you have to get good at understanding the basics of the science and then get really good at understanding how you get from A to Z, getting into court, and then either defending its use or poking holes at its reliability. That's where the lion's share of the work is done these days.
Let's stop here for a break. We'll be back in a moment.
I cannot wait for opening statements in this case.
I used to be your job. Chances are 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack or AMCN Air Ambulance membership is just $99 per year or just $79 for seniors. Learn more
Sorry, I
at
was right point.
airmedcarenetwork.com.
Hey, Cats Live. Hey, Mike.
After getting a better understanding of the DNA in this case, we decided to dig a little deeper into the technology of the cell towers. Here's Stephanie.
There has been so much back and forth over the phone pings because, again, this is going to be a big ticket item. It sounds like for sure the accused Bryan Kohberger was out and about a whole lot that fateful morning, both before and after the murders. Investigators claim that they have phone pings that place Kohberger near the house the morning of the murders. And Kohberger's defense team is arguing that he was nowhere near the house when the murders happened. What is so interesting here is that the same data that the prosecution is going to use to place Kohberger at the scene is the exact same data that the defense is going to use to dispute that.
I reached out to Scott Green, founder of Great Scott Enterprises. For nearly 40 years, he's been collecting, analyzing, and helping to explain complex electronic evidence.
I collect the data, I analyze the data, I make sense of the data, and then I present the data in court, either to a jury or to the judge.
What we wanted to speak with you about is the cell phone data. And all we hear about are the pings. Bryan Kohberger, the alleged, was pinging everywhere. Can you please explain what are cell phone pings or signals and how specific are they?
So a ping, in the way it's been used in the media, and I read the articles with regards to cell phones and towers, is a connection between a cell phone and a tower. Those connections fall into three different categories generally. They are a phone call that would ping off a tower or connect to a tower, and they're referred to as pings. So they occur when somebody makes a phone call, they occur when somebody uses data, and they occur when somebody sends a standard SMS or text message. As far as how specific a ping is, the tower knows the direction that the cell phone is from the tower. So what you get out of the ping and out of the cell phone carrier is a direction from the tower, generally in a pie-shaped area that shows the direction from the tower that the cell phone is. And when you have them moving through space and time, you can get an idea as to where the cell phone is going and how fast it's moving and some things like that. You get some estimates out of that. But you don't get an exact position out of the cell phone carrier information.
what I understood as you described it was that the pings happen when something active is occurring, a call, a text, or using data. Do these pings also happen passively? I have my phone here right now. Is this pinging?
Cell phones and towers are communicating most of the time, usually because there's data transactions between a cell phone and a tower. That could be updates, it could be email getting updated, or inbound or outbound data of some sort.
Understood. So in this case, the accused Kohberger wouldn't have had to have been actively on his phone to ping. It could be something in the background. Is that correct?
It could be something in the background that is generating those pings. True.
I know you said direction and potential.
Well, let's think about this for a minute, okay? You're going to go commit a crime. What are you not going to do? You know what I wouldn't do? I sure as hell would not turn my phone off as soon as I got near or, left my house, let's say, going to the crime scene, and then maybe turned it off for a period of time, let's say, a couple of hours, and then turned it back on once I got back towards the university where I went to school. Kohberger, that's like number one in things that you don't do, dude. You should have left your phone at home. Just left it there. And got a different phone if you needed one so bad. Buy a GPS, Garmin, a TomTom. I don't know. Throw it away after you're done, but you didn't do it right. Oh, now my doggy's crying. She wants to go out with. She wants the other dog's bed. Never mind. Just kidding. I'll put it back on. Can you hear her crying? She's making me laugh. She just wants to sit where Araya is. Hold on, let me show you guys. Oh, she already kicked her out of the bed. That's so mean, Mia. She's so mean. Okay. Everyone's probably like, what is she doing? You can't see him now, but she's laying here, and the other one's just standing over here, like. She's like, what do I do? I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry to interrupt everything. I interrupted life for a minute.
Potential trajectory. And
you'll have that.
Does the radius depend upon how far apart the towers are? So basically, could they spot me in my car within a 2-block radius, or is it a 2-mile radius?
So that's a great question. In the country, outside of cities, in rural areas, the cell phones transmit a much longer distance than they do inside of cities. So it depends where you are as far as how far a cell tower will transmit.
In Moscow, Idaho, it's not in the country. It is in no way in a big city, but there's 2 colleges right nearby, because I would imagine colleges would need more power.
So here's an interesting thing. I drove past the University of Arizona yesterday, and one of the things that I noticed is that there are a tremendous number of 5G towers around a university. In the country where the accused was driving, there's probably a lot fewer. What's the distance between those 2 locations? Somebody said 10 minutes.
10 miles.
About 10 miles. So in the country, you're going to find that cell phone towers can be miles apart and cover miles in both directions from a cell phone tower. They vary in direction based upon geography and where people are and how the cell phone carrier wants to cover the area.
This isn't specifically a technical question, so we can skip over it if you want, but the accused is a criminology PhD student. Is it surprising to you that if what's alleged is true, that he had his phone on him the whole time? I mean, even I know that my phone will leave a footprint.
It is surprising to me that someone with that background would have their phone with them. Agreed. I would think somebody who has some intelligence about criminal backgrounds and criminology would probably at that level at least know that it's a bad idea to have your cell phone with you when you commit a crime.
Yeah, it's just so incongruous. As a PhD candidate, Kohberger was also a teacher's assistant at Pullman, Washington State University. And we spoke with one of his students, and she's not wrong. That's one of the things that gives her pause on the alleged guilt is it's 101 to not do that. How frequently do pings update? Is it a standard amount of time? Does it depend situationally?
Wow, it depends. Pings get updated differently based upon which one of those three items is going on. You're going to see every time there is a text message sent, you can see a connection to a tower. And every time a cell phone call is initiated, or the cell phone changes towers, or the call ends, one of those three things when it's a phone call, you'll see a different tower recorded by the cell phone carrier. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. As a real example here, a white sedan that the prosecution alleges is Kohberger's. It was seen passing by the victim's residence at 3:29, that same white vehicle at 4:04, and at 4:20 is seen leaving the area at high speed. Can officials attempt to corroborate, we see the car and then go and check the tower to see if that lines up?
So are you asking me if the law enforcement at the time can go do that, or look back in history?
Go back in history. As a layman, I would want to think, oh, can I corroborate that with cell tower information?
You can corroborate the location of the cell phone. If it was in the car, you would be able to say, okay, it's in the car and it's moving, or it's in the car and stationary, if the cell phone is on and communicating with the tower. Because in this case, we see that the cell phone is connected at his home at 2:42 a.m., right? And then at 2:47, so 5 minutes later, it's moving and then gets turned off. And then it gets turned back on 4:48 south of Moscow, Idaho on State Highway 95. In between that, if I understand the timeline and what's listed here, the cell phone is off. So it's not talking to the towers at all. Interestingly, the car is a Kia, right?
It's a Hyundai Elantra.
A Hyundai Elantra. Okay, same company. Hyundai and Kia are the same company. So I wonder if they took that car apart and looked for cell phone signals coming out of that, because a lot of cars nowadays have cell phones built into them and they're constantly communicating.
Without knowing the specifics of Kohberger's car, was it common for cars to be emitting signals?
A lot of cars in that time frame were starting to have cell phones built into them. One of the things that happens in our world is that a lot of devices are following us around. And when those devices connect to things, they get recorded. One of the things that has happened in our world, and you'll notice this on Google Maps, you'll notice this in other things that are used to track us through space and time. Wi-Fi signals have been collected by Google as part of what they did when they were mapping our world. And so you will see when you are navigating your car and you turn on Google Maps, it will say, if you want to have a better navigation experience or something along those lines, turn on Wi-Fi. And the reason why it uses that is now it's seeing Wi-Fi connections that are from homes that it passes by or businesses that it passes by. And it adds that to the mix. Not only is GPS very accurate, but it adds the Wi-Fi signal to the mix to track the vehicle or the phone and display the map.
If a phone, quote, stops reporting to the network, does that mean for 100% that the phone was turned off, or could there be another explanation?
If a phone stops talking to the network, it could be a host of things. It could be a distance problem out in the forest somewhere, under a rock or inside a cave or something like that. However, for the most part, a cell phone not communicating with a tower is generally evidence that the cell phone is turned off or in airplane mode.
Here is my last two questions that I have. And I took an Uber the other day and I was at the back of a grocery store. And my Uber driver called me and he said, I need you to come to the front of the store. That's where I'm going to be. So, and I opened my Uber and I could see myself walking just from the front to the back of one store. Okay, why do we have that level of specificity for an Uber, but not here?
So, a lot of apps, navigation apps, Uber, Lyft, use GPS data, which is a much more accurate signal to place you at a particular place. GPS is much more accurate than these cell phone pings, much more accurate.
Why is GPS much more accurate than cell phone pings?
Cell phone pings will give you an area, this pie-shaped area where the cell phone is located. GPS data can narrow that down to within feet. So a cell phone sector is what they're technically called, a pie-shaped area, could be many square miles. A GPS location is going to generally be within feet.
And I guess it is that GPS is that specific because that's its intention, whereas cell phone towers are intended to allow.
That's what I was going to say too, Jan. His car only had the black box, and we went over that before. The black box is only there to like help with the mechanics of learning the mechanics of a car when it's in like a car accident. It wants to know. It'll collect data like, does the driver have their seatbelt on? How fast was the person going? What was the impact of that? If they hit something, things of that nature. It's not going to say like, this person went over here and, did some grocery shop and then went over to here and had a cup of coffee. Like, it doesn't work like that. Unfortunately. I wish it did.
Our phones
to communicate.
Right.
But I still think if he was dumb and got a burner phone or something, and we find out about that later, I mean, it happens. Tiffany Adams, the Oklahoma case, dumbasses bought burner phones.
Right, but not to track us.
So cell phone towers, and they're broken up into sectors so that the number of connections can be managed. GPS data is more specific so that you can navigate. You can be in a particular place and say, I want to go to this other place, and it's going to navigate you generally within feet.
Looking forward to trial. So the defense and prosecution, to our knowledge, they have to the public knowledge, there is the same data exists. How are two different experts going to read the same information and from there draw different conclusions?
Okay, so a little piece of this that you can look at. One is ZX and the other is Cellhawk. Those are two different products that both map where a cell phone is. As far as this guy, who's their cell phone expert?
Cy Ray is the founder of ZX Corporation.
Yeah. And he's the guy that's going to testify, we think?
Yes, the defense has said he will testify to corroborate Kohberger's alibi and say that he was not at the residence because he was too far south.
We have 2 hours roughly between the cell phone being connected in his home and the cell phone being connected south of Moscow, Idaho. It's difficult for an expert to say that the phone wasn't somewhere if it was off. So we have two data points that are 2 hours apart. It's difficult for any expert in either direction, prosecution or defense, to prove or disprove where that cell phone is in those 2 hours. How are you going to prove that? You can't prove a negative. You can't. So they could say, yeah, it's possible that between 2:47 and 4:48 in the morning that he made it over to this home and murdered people, but that's a lot of time in between. A lot of time. I don't see the defense.
Well, what about 6 hours driving around? Hey, buddy, what about 6 hours just driving around? Cloudy as hell, but I'm gonna go stargazing, even though it's November and it's freezing out. I'm gonna get up out of my car because I don't have a sunroof.
Part of their testimony because they are looking at the same data, and the lack of data between 2:47 and 4:48 is just a lack of data. You're going to be difficult for either side to prove anything in that time frame.
It's so obvious what you said, and I don't know how it hadn't occurred. Of course, there's a dearth. There is no information.
Dearth is a perfect word to use. There's nothing. There's nothing. So the timeline shows that there is no data from the cell phone carrier between 2:47 and 4:48 in the morning.
How do you think the cell phone evidence will be received by a jury, or how do you feel cell phone evidence in general is received by juries?
As a person who presents cell phone evidence all the time, younger juries are very receptive to cell phone evidence. They use their phones all the time. They know that they're a computer they carry around in their pocket or on their hip or in their purse. There certainly can be older members of the jury that have a harder time understanding that. Sometimes I run into older judges that have a hard time understanding what that really means.
Let's stop here for another break. We'll be back in a moment. I continued my conversation with Cully Stimson about how he predicts the cell phone data and DNA evidence will be presented at court, beginning with the process from finding DNA at a crime scene to tying it to a potential murder suspect, and how that ultimately is presented during trial.
In some murder cases, the motive is dead clear, no pun intended. He wanted her, she didn't want him, she rejected him. We get that. Two drug dealers go at each other over turf, one kills the other. We get that. These are harder cases because here's a dude who lives in a different state. He had no prior relationship that we know of with any one of these people. The government doesn't have to prove motive, but everyone in the courtroom is sitting there. And I can tell you, I've been there. Why did he do this? And I want to state to you right here and now, I don't have to prove motive. Motive is not an element of any of these crimes. And so when my colleague stands up on the defense and suggests what's the motive, that's an interesting question, but we're not here to resolve that. We're here to resolve whether he committed this crime and whether I've proven beyond a reasonable doubt each and every element of the offense to which he's been charged. This isn't a whodunit. And I don't have to prove to you why he done it.
That's so interesting because you hear in so many cases, motive, 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 motive. But that's not.
It's never an element. It's never an element. It's the smoke cloud that's drifting around the courtroom in every case like this. It's just hanging in the air. And every time I was a defense counsel, it was motive, motive, motive. They haven't proved motive. I don't know why they haven't proved motive. That's because clearly there wasn't a motive. And I'm playing the other game. You haven't heard 1 ounce of evidence against my client about why he would do something. Why would a upstanding PhD candidate who has everything in front of him do something like this? It's absurd. And that's the kind of argument you're going to hear.
But it's not material.
It's not an element of the offense. Murders are driven by love, lust, power, or money. Those are the big four. And then since I'm a Shakespearean, I would add greed, because greed is one of them as well. I watched the proceedings in this for just a few minutes today in preparation to chat with you. And it seemed like the prosecutor is sort of a no-nonsense older fella who's just doing his job. And it seems like this public defender is, doing what she can with a really tough case. And clearly, at this point, Kohberger still wants his trial. I wouldn't be surprised if he changes his mind. I would not be surprised if he changes his mind, because I would suspect behind the scenes, this public defender is going to the prosecutor and, okay, what can we do here? My guy's willing to do this, plead to this if you're willing to cap confinement at this. He wants to be able to see, sunshine before he's dead. And if I was the government, depending on the strength of the evidence, and I don't know the evidence, nor do you, we only know what we've read, I might say, yeah, I'm willing to discuss, in theory, a plea. Of course, the families are going to have a say in that, depending on what the state victim rights statute says. There's a lot of green between the ball and the cup here. Oftentimes you take your best shot during pretrial motions when you're the defense counsel, and depending on how they turn out, then you can go back to your client and go, look, we're 0 for 5. It's looking real bad for you. More than happy to defend you. I'm a fighter. I don't know what the state law allows for. But in the federal system and in some states, you get a break on sentencing if you plead guilty. And the opposite is true. If you go to trial, the judge, one of the factors is that you not getting punished for going to trial, but you don't get a break for pleading guilty.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. They can't increase the punishment because you exercised your right to have a trial. But if you plead guilty, they can give you a break for pleading guilty and not expending court time.
Right. Because
any state would do that. That's called getting a deal. You plead guilty and give you the set amount of time. That's called getting a deal.
I mean,
and there's not going to be any deals made in this case. I'm telling you right now, because I can just see Steve Gonzalez's head spinning off his shoulders if something ever happened like that. Ooh, that'd be a day.
In this case, if what I read just the other day is accurate,
Thank you,
it's
Mary
already
Beth.
up over $3 million.
which is a drop in the bucket for a big jurisdiction. But for a little tiny jurisdiction like where they are, they have never seen a case like this in the history of that county. And so for a little county like this, that doesn't have a lot of crime, to have a big case like this with cell site location information and DNA and all the rest of it with national attention, they're going to go through some money. But, justice shouldn't have a cost to it. The thing about murder cases is somebody did it. Somebody did it. And justice requires accountability in a murder case. And it's the ultimate case because in a situation like this, where they were perfectly innocent, helpless, young people with their whole lives in front of them, but for victims who are children and babies, these are the most sympathetic types of victims. And so there is no reason for the government to give the defendant an inch if they have a solid case.
I mean, people have been collecting DNA for a long time. So it would seem like unless you're really messing up on the collection, then if your DNA is on the sheath, guess what? You're probably there. How does the defense counter this?
There can be other innocent explanations for the presence of a person's DNA at a crime scene other than the fact that they're the perp. And so you could, I have asked myself, and I have seen in my courtrooms when I was a judge or a prosecutor, defense counsel saying, well, okay, you're saying that the defendant's DNA was found in this barracks room in the Navy. Yes, it was. And isn't it the fact that these study groups study in their rooms? Yes, it is. So you can't disprove that my client, the defendant, wasn't in the victim's room as part of a study group, can you? Well, no, I can't, not from a forensic standpoint. So you're trying to create reasonable doubt, which is your job as the defense counsel. And there are oftentimes innocent explanations for the presence of someone's DNA at a crime scene. Now, are there innocent explanations for the DNA of Bryan Kohberger found on the knife sheath, on the bloody bed sheets of an apartment in a different state? I have a very, very, very hard time wrapping my head around how you create reasonable doubt to explain the presence of his DNA at a murder scene in a different state in a kid's apartment. So that's a big hurdle for this defense counsel. And of course, so instead of attacking that, they're going after the cell site location information. And they're putting up an alibi defense. If you have an alibi defense, you're required to notify the government of your alibi within a certain period of time before the trial, and then give specifics of what your alibi is, because the government can then try to go poke holes and find out if there's any holes in your alibi defense. And we'll see how the defense plays out, but it seems as if they've created enough wiggle room in this loosey-goosey alibi defense that puts him driving around at random places at random times in the middle of the night in the general location of the crime. But of course, I'm sure their cell site location person is going to say, well, he wasn't exactly at the place. But the problem is this guy had been to the crime scene multiple times, according to the cell site location information. And in all the other times he was there, he didn't turn his cell phone off. And yet, just coincidentally, on the night of the murder, his cell phone turns off for a period of when the murders were said to have happened, and then it turns back on as he's heading back to his college. It just doesn't look good for him. Oftentimes, in a case where you have the defendant's DNA at the scene of a crime where there's no prior relationship between the victim and the defendant, and they're complete strangers, and it's found in a very, very inconvenient place for the defendant, they end up pleading guilty. Because when you're the defense counsel and you get that information and you understand what it means, you finally have the come to Jesus talk with your client, say, game's up. You have a right to a trial. Of course, I'll defend you and I'll give you a great defense. Notice I didn't ask you whether you did it or not. So you can take the stand, say whatever you want. However, from my experience, there is no reasonable explanation of why your DNA is there, except.
Okay, that'd be my, okay, if you guys were, okay. If you guys were a defense attorney, and I don't know how the rules are, I don't know if there's rules, okay, or whatever, or I know there's code of ethics or whatever, but I don't know if this is a rule. Now I forgot to ask you guys, oh my lordy. Let me go back. Now I got to listen to this again.
You have a right to a trial. Of course.
Okay, that's what it was. Okay. So at what point in time do you think that Anne asked him, did you do this? Or do you think she didn't ask him at all? Do you think she said, hey, keep me in the dark. I don't want to know if you did it or not. Just tell me the facts. Tell me what you did do. I don't know how that would work. That wouldn't work for me. I would want to know the whole thing. Did you do it? And if you did, let's figure out a story, because that's all it really. I mean, that's what it is. It's the defense telling whoever can tell the better story with the evidence that they have. Really. I think I would ask. Day one, Jen. I bet you would. I could see you going in there doing it, dude. Yeah. Be like, did you do this? Are you wasting my time? No, you're wasting my time, boy. I would have to know. I would have to know, dude. In order to defend somebody, I would have to know if they did it or not. Even if they were lying to me, I could tell. You know what I mean? You could probably tell they're lying. But like, I don't know. I just feel like I would have to ask. Couldn't be one of them lawyers couldn't ask.
I'll defend you, and I'll give you a great defense. Notice I didn't ask you whether you did it or not. So you can take the stand, say whatever you want. However, from my experience, there is no reasonable explanation of why your DNA is there, except for the fact that you did it. I don't think the government's going to have a hard time proving beyond a reasonable doubt that you did it. And most defendants, who are sitting in that situation.
Here's one of my favorite pictures.
And so they try to get the best deal they can.
I mean, it seems like they're going full bore.
The problem is that, of course, go on the record, this guy's presumed innocent unless proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by legal and competent evidence. He enjoys that presumption of innocence through the entire trial. That said, the evidence is overwhelming, as we've seen it to this date, for guilt. Because not only do you have the police stopping of the car and the cell site location information of him, what looks to be scouting out the crime scenes, but you have people who were alive, who he didn't kill, who said a person looked like this, and they picked him out. And then you have his DNA, and then you have the cell site location information on the night of, and you have him turning the cell phone off. Any two of those pieces of evidence alone would get you close to beyond a reasonable doubt. I think the DNA alone gets them to beyond a reasonable doubt. But when you have all the other circumstantial and direct evidence, I see this case as what's called a slow plea. A slow plea is he's just guilty. Everyone knows he's guilty, but he has a constitutional right to demand his trial, and he's going forward with the trial. And of course, he's presumed innocent. I'll say that again. But to me, this looks like a slow plea and a guy who's just not willing to accept responsibility for his actions. Maybe he'll be acquitted. I don't know. But it looks like a slow plea to me. And so this will be a battle of the experts on the cell site location information. That, the government will say he went from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He turned it off between here, and that puts him at the house on or around the time of the murder. And the defense will come up and say, yeah, we can't dispute that he was there, but that could mean he was way over here in this bubble. If I was the government, I'd say, okay, all right, let's just pretend that everything the defense expert said is true, and let's just throw out the cell site location information. Here's all the other evidence that points out that he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. In fact, let's take 4 other pieces of evidence off. He's still guilty. Let's take 9 pieces of evidence off. He's still guilty. So I wouldn't play into that. I'd fight it hard, and then I would just talk about, is that reasonable? Because that's not reasonable.
More on that next time. For more information on the case,
left us on a cliffhanger. BK or Ann Taylor? Oh, I don't know. I don't know, Phantom. I mean, he's smart. You can tell he is smart. He's a smart guy. If he can, it's a shame. It is a dang shame if you think about it. I mean, he was almost there. He was almost to the graduation point. You're in your 20s. You lost all that weight. You got off of the rugs. The real ones, none of this pill crap. You were on heroin. You were on the real deal. Got off of that, kicked that habit, kicked that fat off your body, got the surgeries, did the work, did all that schoolwork, going from DeSales to wherever, the places of Pennsylvania over to, Washington State. What were you doing, bruh? What were you doing? You were there. You were so close. You almost had it. You know that commercial? You almost had it. And with the dollar bill. Yeah. I was thinking about that. That made me think of someone the other day. I don't know. Just that commercial cracks me up. Now he just thinks he's that smart. I mean, that'll do too. In criminal justice, it's not hard. It's hard. Okay, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. But if you have a passion for something like that, I feel like it's not as hard, if that makes sense. I have my bachelor's of criminal justice. This comes from somebody that's done the schoolwork. I've done the schoolwork. Didn't go for my doctorate. Didn't go for my PhD, but hey, maybe I'll go back. Got a letter right here saying, good to go. No more student loans. Freaking 40 almost. Jeez. I can't believe I'm almost 40. But I don't think I have anything else on Kohberger. Oh, Kohlberg. I did check the Idaho Judicial Branch website just to see if there's any new documents out. Nothing's been out since the scheduling order that came out on June 27th. It's been a little while, you know. I'm waiting on something. Now, they did put in here like the trial, but they didn't put anything for the next hearing. They said they were going to have hearings once a month, though. If you guys have any idea when that is, let me know, because I don't see it. Let me see. Any motions on the, okay, let's, oh, wait, I found something maybe. Okay. Let me share this with you. I think does have a little bit of stuff actually on the, right here. A jury trial shall commence at 8:30. This is going to be June 2nd, 2025. And it'll run till August 29th. And it says trial will not be held. Okay, no, that's not right. The defense motion to change venue is currently set to be heard on August 29th, 2024. So is that the next date? If that motion is granted, the court anticipates that the trial dates will not change, although the location of the trial would. Now, you know that trial dates would change because not everybody has the same schedule as you, John Judge. So just throw, if we get to change it, they get to change the venue, just throw out the court date again. Just throw that out. Just pretend like you never even heard that. 2025, what? Because you're going to think like, we're going to be thinking more like 2027. It's going to be more like a Sarah Boone case. The itch we can't scratch, you know? Any motions challenging the death penalty shall be filed on or before September 5th. Any responses shall be filed on or before October 10th. Any replies are due by October 24th. A hearing on the motion shall be held on November 7th at 10 a.m. So we've got one August 29th, November 7th. Right here, we got motion to suppress evidence, and any other 12B motions shall be filed no later than November 14th, 2024. Responses shall be filed December 19th, 2024. I had a friend that had the birthday. Any replies shall be filed by January 10th, 2025. Oh my Lord, that sounds weird saying it. A hearing on the motion shall be held on February 6th, 2025, and then at 10 a.m. So those are the new court dates. State's discovery deadline is September 6th. Defense discovery is January 9th. That's coming up. The state needs to get their crap together. You better get that crap all nice and tidy. Oh, I didn't have that up for you guys very good. Sorry. Had it up for me. Well, I'm like over here like trying to see it. But yeah. That's all I got for you, I think. But that's we're going in order. We're going the way we're supposed to go. I don't see a change of venue happening. I just don't. Bill Thompson's going to ride this case out like the horse he rolled in on. You know what I mean? He's going to be, I think that he wants a big case under his belt. Let him go in retirement. Hell, John Judge might even retire after this one. I have to hear all this stuff with Ann. I'd retire. Ann might even retire after all of this. Shit. You know, can we give it up for Ann for a minute? Hold on a second. I'm going to give her a little credit because they don't really, I mean, they do pick the client, but they don't really, you know, so maybe I shouldn't be so hard on her. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I will be. She's getting paid the big bucks for me to make fun of her. You think it'll be dismissed? Well, we'll see when they get all that paperwork. They're supposed to have all the discovery. Now, did you know, I didn't know this, and I'm going to look into this more. I thought when you committed a crime, like as in, let's say Scott Peterson's case, right? Unalive wife, unborn baby, Connor. When did they not, I guess they've always done this. When did you not get your whole discovery for yourself, like your whole case file? Like if I committed a crime, right? If I committed an M on somebody, I would want my whole case file myself, me, my own eyeball, my own room, my piece. I want to read through this. Do you know what I mean? Well, I saw today that Scott Peterson's trying to fight to get his his case file, and I saw that, and I was like, "What? You mean to tell me you've been in jail for prison 20 years now?" He's been in prison since I got out of high school. I think he's like, I'm gonna look right now. I mean, he doesn't have his whole case file still. To me, that's weird. I'm not supporting Scott Peterson. I'm just saying, I think that it's extremely weird. I think that you should always have, you're entitled to that, right? Let's see. Let me look up Lacey, actually. That's so sad. It comes up right up. Oh, disappeared 2002. Oh, even more, even longer. I was 16. Man, you did that. You did the damn thing forever ago. He's dreaming. Yeah, I guess he's not going to get it, but I mean, I think he should get it if it's his case file, right? I mean, I don't know. It's just weird to me. Maybe he has access to his old case file. Maybe this is his new case file because he's trying to reopen his case, but it's weird. Yeah, so I think she big. There's big money. There's big money. I don't know if a lot of people really want to touch this case. I don't know. I mean, it takes a big kahunas to be able to, to stand up there and be like, I'm defending him. And he is accused of unaliving these 4 beautiful, amazing, incredible, excited for life students. These kids had lives. They had lives to live. They had lives that were supposed to be moving forward. I just think that'd be so hard. It's probably why she messed the back of her hair, straightening it that day. We made fun of her. We teased her. We teased her about her hair. But they just put this podcast out today. So the next one, maybe a week. I don't know. I think they're every week. But I will get the other ones out in short video. That way, you just have the podcast. And if you guys want to check out the old podcast, I still have those. They're all under my Idaho playlist. I have probably 300 videos under Idaho playlist. I have a lot. Thank you so much. Painter's wife. Look at that. Got it. Thank you for your work. I'm really glad I became a member. Me too. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's always good to have new people, Oh, Mary Beth, 161 days till Christmas. I was like, what? Well, then you have 161 days to go pick out the perfect present for me. I'm just kidding. That'd be so funny. I'm going to put my Amazon wish list up online. It'll have cars. It's going to have a house. Can you buy a house on Amazon? I think you can. If you can, we're going to put it on the list. And we'll make an outrageous one. With I don't know, maybe some power drills. Maybe a saw or something. I don't know. Put some randoms down there. I'm just kidding with you guys. Do you think any high profile law firms have reached out to BK pro bono? I was wondering that, Phantom. I was wondering why no one did. Jose Baez or somebody, you know what I mean? Just somebody to leech on. Maybe he did, but maybe he didn't talk. I mean, maybe he's just going with the motions. I don't know. I just know that when he holds his hands like this, and I know we're not supposed to be watching Kohberger or they'll take him off the TV, they said, but I can't help myself. When he's sitting like this, I watched his hands and he's had him down below his belt before and they don't shake. They don't move. He's so calm. If you put your hands like that, it's kind of hard. I'm a shaky person. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm not even, I didn't even do anything. And I'm shaking. I don't know. Oh, Mary Beth, I was just kidding. I was going to put one that's a really ridiculous one, but I should put one for the animals. They would love that. I had animals in here tonight too. You should have. It was a mess. I'm glad that we had the podcast going. One dog tripped over the other dog. The gray one, she's a mess. She's very big and she doesn't realize how big she is. She's probably I tried to pick her up the other day and I couldn't even budge her. I was like, she's 80 pounds probably. She's huge. She's solid muscle and she thinks she's a lap dog. And then here she comes. Here she comes. They're my girls. They know I'm talking about them. And then the other one, she gets bullied. The brown one. Man. They're part of the family. Yeah, Mia's going to be out there when I open the door. They want a cookie. I call their biscuits cookies, but I don't know where did I get biscuit even from. I used to call them dog treats. Now I call them dog cookies. Cookies. You guys want a cookie? Very similar to Chad Daybell. Did they move Chad Daybell's trial? I don't think they did they? Yeah, thank you for the super chat. So nice. And thank you, Mary Beth, for the gift of memberships. And Adam, thank you for the $1.99 super sticker. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. And ALR, been a member for 13 months. Look at that. That's a long time. 13 months. Gotcha. You call them cookies too? I think it's because I bought them cookies once, like dog cookies, and they look like dog cookies, or they look like real cookies. We about ate them, and I think that's where I got it from, cookies. And I hope that I'm so sorry about your French, true crime, and other stuff, William. When you said whenever I saw that name in the chat, I saw a Billy part, and I was like, wait, what? And then my mind just went, because there's a guy that's been coming in, and he seems like he's nice. I don't know. And he's always like, I think Brittany wants you to come on her channel. I think she always talks about you, and asks me to come over and see what you're talking about or something like that. Like, he seems genuine, like doesn't seem like a troll. But then it's like he doesn't know or something that, I just stay over here. And I thought that's who it was. And I was like, oh my gosh, that guy died. Like, because, my mind was going, my brain stopped computing at that point. I'm so sorry for your loss, though. I couldn't imagine. And I'm glad that we're getting closer to the weekend, because I'm gonna call my best friend tomorrow just to tell her, hey. Just say, hey, what are you doing? She'd probably pass out. I haven't talked to her for a while. We could probably do something like that. We could do maybe a members one or something. It would just be hard to keep up with all the names. We'd have to see how many people we have. That could be fun. Oh, what you doing out there, Mia? I don't know if you can hear her little paws, but she'll click her claws on the floor. He was stargazing, watching the moon. I know, Carolina. Looking at the night sky when it was February. I almost say February. Sebastian was left in February, or that stuff happened in February. November. Very not a good time to go, I'd say. And you're out for that 6 hours or more, and you didn't stop anywhere else. Like, what'd you do? Just pee in the desert or something, in the woods out there? I'm going to true crime and other stuff. I am. I'm gonna call her. She'll be glad to hear from me. It'd be like, we hadn't missed a beat. That's usually how it is. So yeah, I'm gonna call her. I need to call my brother too. Y'all need to start holding me accountable. I'm gonna start calling people on the live. That'd be fun. Be like, hey, do you know I'm on YouTube now? They'd be like, no. And I'd be like, well, you're on live right now. We could do that. Prank my brother. That'd be fun. My nephews. That could be fun. I don't even think my family knows I have a YouTube channel. I don't think anybody knows except for you guys online and Vincent. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really talk to a whole lot of people. Me and my cousin were extremely close. And she unfortunately passed away this year. So, this year, just a few months ago, actually. So I haven't really been talking to too many people other than you guys. But I love you guys. You're my favorite people to come and hang out with every evening. We do talk true crime daily. That's our thing here. If you do enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, all the things. It was nice to talk to you guys for a little bit after the live. And it's only 11 o'clock, so it's not even too late. I'm going to walk out there and look, the lights are still on. That means Vincent's awake. He will turn all the lights off in this house, guys. I'm like, I'm blind, right? I am blind. Earlier, I tripped over the dog bed that I moved. I moved it. I knew that I moved it, but I didn't. I just didn't see it, and I forgot. I hate it sometimes. Just when you run into stuff, I'm constantly running into things. I need to wear a GoPro one day, just so you guys can see the amount of times I run into stuff on the right side. I guess it'd probably be pretty entertaining to watch. But thank you guys all for being here tonight. I do appreciate it. I'm gonna go give my dog some dog cookies because they're at the door, and I'm sure the cat is with them because he usually is. And thanks for all your well wishes for Rocky. He's doing so much better. He's back to being the life of the party. So that's all I can hope for. But thank you guys for all being here. I'll be back tomorrow night. We're going to talk about Caleb Harris. So make sure your alerts are set. I may come on during the day and do that, but I may not. I don't know. Just depending on how I feel in the morning or afternoon. But if not, we'll come on tomorrow evening and we'll cover Caleb Harris. And then of course we got, still got Sarah Boone and her crazy letters to the judge. We got some more letters we can read through. And Sebastian Rogers, there's really nothing going on other than his dad's doing these rogue searches. And you got Narc Divers telling him kind of how to do the search through his YouTube because he's looking at the sonar and he's like, dude, you're not doing it right. Like, and he wants to help. So there's that. I don't know. There's really not a whole lot going on. Elijah Vu, mom's still going to court. She's going to try to take a plea, get out of there. I don't know how they're letting moms leave without giving up kids, but it's beyond me. But I have Mary Beth. I have your order set right here. I'm going to box it up for you. I went ahead and I was grabbing stuff. And thank you so much, Stephanie, for getting something the other day. I really appreciate the candles. I really boxed them in so much packing. I was like, these are not going to move. But thank you guys so much for purchasing from my store. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for all the super chats, super stickers, thanks, likes, all of it. Just being here. I love it all. Thank you guys. I will see you guys all tomorrow.